Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast in the history of podcast. My name is Bryan Neal.
My name is Bill Caskey.
We are here every week for your listening enjoyment. If you've not already done so, go check out the Insider Program, live coaching with my good friend Bill Caskey once a month. And that's the biggest bang for your buck. For sales coaching, there's no better value. Great group, great content, great coach, worth every dime, and then some. And check out we got a LinkedIn group. You know, I love LinkedIn.
You do? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
I love LinkedIn.
Love hate.
This is more of LinkedIn needs to do more with groups. We've got this big group of people, 13,000 people that listen to this podcast are in that group. And just the way the algorithms work toward groups, I think it limits the ability for that group to be as active as I think the group wants to be. It's no one's fault except LinkedIn's. So LinkedIn, there's your challenge. Make groups better. How's that? That's a nice broad topic, but.
Yeah, it seems like the other platforms seems like the communities and groups are an emphasis, but not so much with LinkedIn, other than just they have one, but it kind of sits there and you can't, I don't know.
You can't do much with it as the administrator, so it doesn't create engagement. It would create massive engagement, I think, if we worked on it.
Yeah. So you ready for a story?
I'm ready.
We did babysit this weekend our 1-year-old granddaughter. My daughter was out of town for a wedding, and so her name is Palmer, and we took her on Thursday and had her through Sunday. And on Saturday, my wife had to go to a shower, so she was gone for 3 or 4 hours, and we thought it would be good to have her sisters come over and help, which, you can always use a helping hand. I could have done it, but, and neither of these have children of their own. So, so they operate at a very different level of protection and, that kind of thing. And so they came over and they were playing with her and everything. And I said, hey, I think she wants to go out for a wagon ride. And I got all these instructions like, well, be careful now because it rained last night. So the deck may be wet and you better dry off the wagon because I was going to put her in a pool of soot. I was going to put some sand in it, maybe just to make
mulch.
Yeah,
I found a beehive. I was going to drop a wasp nest in there too.
Trying to build her immune system. So I thought if we had some germs, some viruses in there too.
Oh man!
And then she was getting ready to, babies crawl backwards down steps, and she was out front. She was going to crawl down the concrete steps, which are different than the wood steps out back. And the steps are a little long or a little wider, so it requires her little body to do some. And it's concrete, It's like, oh, Bill, you're not going to have her crawl. I'm like, what? What's she going to do?
I am.
And then yesterday, the coup de grace is yesterday. I had her in the wagon, and she stood up. She was holding on to the wagon. All of a sudden, she stood up, and people were watching from the window. And some people were like, she's standing up. She's standing up. Well, I had stopped, though. You can't stop it too quickly because if you stop the wagon too quickly.
Absolutely.
So, and then I thought, there's probably a good reason to have her learn how to stand up in a wagon. So I thought maybe somebody could pull the wagon and I could go along next to her and she could stand up and, get her balance. It's like surfing.
Yeah, right.
Good. But now people put the kibosh to that pretty quickly. But why is it that, and I'll just say it what it is. Men, for some reason, are discounted when it comes to watching kids. It's like we lose all of our sense of logic when a child is involved. It's like, don't forget, I had one.
Oh, it's
had several.
Yeah, exactly. I had 4.
You're past that. Watch them.
We love the moms. We love the ladies. And they're hardwired to it's really, really good motherly instincts and that sort of thing. Fatherly instincts basically stop it. Is the child alive? If yes, then good. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? They can be broken, fall over, hurt themselves. If alive, if yes, alive, yes, good, fine. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
And that's really, really funny. And it is. And I admire the protection element of that.
I do too. Which you have to have both. You have
to have both. You got to let kids explore and learn and fall and get hurt. Right. That's how you're not going to let her tumble down concrete stairs into the lake. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
With a kettlebell around her neck.
Yeah.
I thought this would help.
What are we doing?
Yeah, my grandson, when he was, I don't know, 3 or 4, he was climbing a tree out in front of his grandparents' house, and he probably shouldn't have been, but he was,
Right.
and he
Yes.
fell like right on his shoulder,
Yeah.
and he kind of brushed, and my father-in-law was watching, and he was like, "Oh, what? On." And turns out he was fine. Dude brushed. But since then, he has fallen off a swing and broke his arm, fallen out of a tree and broke his arm. And
Yep.
that's just the world. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to stop them from climbing trees or swinging? Of course not. You're going to stop them from jumping at, God's height off the swing? No, because we all did
They
it.
learn. That's how they learn.
Yeah,
And then they have stories to tell their whole life, and it's just part of the deal.
Okay, let's move to the topic.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I was talking with a business owner a couple of weeks ago, and his business is struggling. They're running out of cash. They had some investors series, whatever, and they have the whole game of getting money, and they're not generating enough new clients. They're not keeping the clients they have. And they're not ascending these clients. And I said, well, let's just call him Paul.
Yep.
I said, Paul, if you want to, he's got 7 salespeople. I said, why don't you put your salespeople? I've got like a $97 thing. It's a challenge. It's a 5-day thing. And I said, you know what? If they come through and don't like it, I'll give you your money back. But it might be good to have them reorient themselves to what selling is today.
True.
And his response is, and I want to talk to you about this. His response was, well, Bill, I appreciate that. Selling is not our problem. And here's a guy who's running out of money.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't acquire enough clients fast enough, and he maintains that selling is not his problem. And I thought, first off, I wanted to see what you thought about that. I'm not going to say what industry because it really doesn't matter. But the point is that he is so close to the issue and has such a cognitive bias of what the real issue is. He cannot explore other elements of potential solutions outside of his paradigm.
Interesting. I think you just answered what I would say is the problem. The first bit, and I try to give some empathy at first because we've all been in cases when we're too close to the problem, we can't see it. You see this with interventions with addicts where they just can't see it. They're in it. The rest of the world sees it. They can't. That's a heavy example. Lighter example on the business front is when the salesperson, is working the opportunities that they've got in the funnel, and they think they're just so busy they can't find anything new because they don't have time to. They don't see that there's a way to do both. So this too close to the problem, I think, is a thing. The other thing that I'm hearing in this scenario, which is interesting, is what does stress do to our ability to think or process information?
Yeah, that's a great point.
When the pressure heats up and the water boils around us, what does that do? Do we all have a default there, don't we? Like, work harder, be more stubborn. You and I both used an assessment called the Hogan assessment. And in the Hogan assessment, it identifies derailing behavior. And that's one of the things it does. One of the derailers is called bold. Bold derailers, when I get stressed out, I think it's puffery. I think it's me. I'll handle it all. I can do it. I'm the best. It's that kind of thing. I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. It's not that. It's not.
They get
entrenched. Great word. Great word.
Entrenched with their beliefs, and they can't find a way out of it. And this is not, this is perfectly normal stuff, and we all do it. This is not just take a shot at this dude, Paul. It's more to say, how do we know when we are so locked and loaded into a way of doing things that we literally cannot see our way out of it because we are so entrenched. We're in the trench. We're in the trench, and we're just digging forward, not seeing that next to us is a better way to do things. And I know that's kind of the essence of your practice and my practice is let's find new ways to solve old problems, because these old problems, if we keep throwing the same solution in front of them, they don't work.
Yes. Even we talked a little bit about in one of our recent episodes, it's about sales training.
Exactly.
Well, here's a thing. And I think if you're listening and you're a salesperson, this is just a great skill to develop over time, is your ability to pull focus. And some little cue questions to help you pull focus. One cue question is to not constantly every day, but when you're in this situation, have part of your process be what what am I missing, or what have I not thought about? Let me pull. What have I not thought? Because when you're looking for something you haven't thought about, you'll go find it.
See it. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're not looking for it, you'll never see it. If your brain's not cued into, now what am I not thinking of here? So if you're a salesperson and you've got so much opportunity in your open opportunities that you don't have time to prospect, but you need to and want to, ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What have I not thought about yet? And that just puts your brain into an exploration mode just by the nature of the question. So that's the first thing I'd recommend people do or see, is like, what am I missing? What am I not thinking of?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. I also think that maybe it's a side to that, congruent with that, is the idea of, what are my instincts telling me that I'm just not listening to? Because don't you think a lot of times, like I know when I was battling alcoholism back in my 20s, and that was 135 years ago, and I remember thinking, oh, I know what the problem is. I know what it is. You can take me to therapy, and you can come up with all these things. Well, you don't like your job and your car's not right. And, maybe you should wear a different size shoes. Maybe your toes are a little. No, I know what the problem is. The problem was very obvious, and my instincts knew, but I was hiding that. And so I'm wondering if we get into a routine where we're not generating the kind of revenue, income, we're not happy, we're not flourishing.
Yeah.
Don't we sometimes really know what the issue is, and we're just afraid? We're afraid to bring it up to either someone else or even to ourselves.
I just thought of this with a client, again, less heavy, but the idea of, because you talk to people that have become sober, they'll all say, they knew before they raised the white flag and surrendered to it. Once you surrender to it, it's a full surrender. It doesn't work, as we know. So there's a person, I got a call from a former client, and again, talking code, but for a salesperson who he was struggling a bit with new business generation. And I just thought about this morning before we even planned this episode. And I thought, that person may not be a hunter. Period. Case closed. End of story. They think they want to be, they say they want to be, they pretend they want to be. Deep inside, I don't think it's there. And so what a great feeling. Very difficult to do, though, to come clean and say, you know what? I'm not a hunter.
Yeah.
I've been in sales for 15 years, and my job is to get new business. And I'm all of a sudden come to this realization, that's not what I'm here to do. Yeah. I'm not a good hunter. Don't like it. Not really good at it. It's constant pressure.
It's on my nature. It's on my ambition level.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You just surrender. It's hard to do, man.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of that, recognizing what your instincts are telling you is that's part of that too. And I also think that there's a way to hunt in the non-traditional way that gets you to the result that is not the traditional hunting, cold calling, covering rocks and all that stuff. But that's for a different episode.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thing. And so, so you also brought up this idea of stress, and you said, when you're stressed, can you really think clearly? And I think the answer is obvious. It's no. But we don't. Do we know when we're stressed? I, for one, don't think I'm good at recognizing my own stress. I think I'm good at covering it up and going and working out and doing podcasts and things like that. I mean, I'm good at the doing that covers over the real stress. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for, how do you know if you're stressed internally? Not maybe you're not chaotic on the outside and people look at you and they don't see the stress. Like, people look at me, they don't see stress. They see kind of children. Right. But that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes. It's great. Well, I still use, we're not plugging the Hogan assessment. That's not the point here, but I use this. Hogan assessment tells us, so these derailing behaviors are triggered by stress, tired, boredom, familiarity. Those are the things. And so stress is one of them. So I try to watch myself with those, knowing what mine are. My biggest one that's most observable is reserved. So I pull away from people and things. I get really quiet. I get quiet to my clients, quiet to my family, quiet to my close relationship people. I'm pulling back, and I got to recognize I'm pulling back. I don't want to be around anyone. I want to isolate. I want to go drive around by myself.
Yeah.
And I think until you can tie those to an observable behavior, it becomes really hard. When it becomes an observable behavior. This is like gross. Like, when I was a kid, I used to pick my fingernails like to the bone constantly, and realized that was a stress thing. That was dealing with anxiety of like moving all the time. My parents divorced and all this stuff. And then I stopped doing it because it's kind of gross and it's, looks bad, whatever. And so I'm looking at one of my and I picked one of my fingernails off last week. Yeah. And I had my NFL rules test. I get stressed out about that. The season's getting going. It compresses my calendar. And I'm like, there it is. Just one.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
That's the indicator.
Little trigger.
The indicator that I got to get back to center. Got to get back to ground.
Yep.
Say, okay, there's something else going on. What is it? Can I pray, meditate, whatever I do to resolve those things? That's really good. That's
exactly.
Good. So I would say that, if you don't think you're stressed, you may not be. I think just in the world we live in, there's always a certain amount of grind and anxiety, whether it's, cultural, political, or wars, or just family issues. I mean, every family has issues.
Mm-hmm.
And if you learn, I was in a men's group the other day, and I said, I think the goal would be to get so centered and so confident and feel so abundant that when the things come along, they're just little gnats on your arm and you flick them away, versus something comes along and it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. This light is out. What am I going to do now? It's hopeless. And how do we just organize our life so that all that stuff doesn't bother us? That to me is the magic key. But
yes. And I think back to the person you were, the Paul person, the thing there is like recognizing these things, number one, then pulling that focus and saying, how is this impacting my decision making? And what am I seeing? What am I not seeing? And going to looking for those things.
Yeah.
Kind of full circle it.
And I should have had the courage then to say, do you hear yourself?
Right. Yeah.
But he wasn't paying me. Now, if he would have been paying me as a coach, I would have said that to him. Do you listen? I want to play this back. Hang on a second. Rewind. That was a rewind.
I like it. International symbol for rewind.
Okay. Anyway, so if you have some stress or think you might check it out and just see if your instincts are screaming at you and you're just not listening. And maybe there's some things that Bryan said here that would help you.
Same with Bill. It's good. Yeah. You got to go look. You got to look for things that you're missing. You just got to be open to that. And then make your decisions accordingly. Good one. A lot there.
Make sure you join us on the LinkedIn group. As we talked about earlier, it doesn't do much, but join it. But join it anyway, because it makes you feel good about yourself and makes us feel good. AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/LinkedIn. Also, if you're interested in Insider, our next episode, our next training is this Friday at noon Eastern. And I'll have to check out the topic, but go to AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/Insider. All the topics are listed there. We'd love to have you a part of that. See you next time.
Bye. Cheers.